Welcome to Adult Foster Care Division's video presentation on workforce background checks. In this video, we will discuss adult foster care providers' responsibilities and requirements regarding obtaining the correct background check and fingerprint results for prospective employees and/or those individuals with clinical privileges and regular direct access to adult foster care residents. Let's get started. Effective April 1st of 2006, the Adult Foster Care Licensing Act requires providers to obtain state and FBI fingerprint-based background checks on the following individuals: employees, people providers are independently contracting with, people providers are granting clinical privileges to, and anyone who has regular direct access or provides direct services to residents in adult foster care facilities. To clarify, clinical privileges and direct access definition is access to a resident or a resident's property, financial information, medical records, treatment information, or any other identifying information. The law authorizes these persons that we mentioned to be background checked using the Michigan Workforce Background Check System, which can be located at the site that's indicated on the screen. A common question is, can I use a different background check system? The answer is no. Providers must use the Michigan Workforce Background Check System to conduct background checks. So how do providers get potential employees fingerprinted? Let's take an in-depth look. Each adult foster care facility has its own workforce background check account. The acronym is WBC, and it remains the same regardless of change of name or change of ownership. Upon issuance of their original license, the WBC program sends the licensee directions how to set up their account. Each licensee or licensee designee will appoint a primary administrator in the WBC system. Background check results and other correspondence are sent to the primary administrator's email address. The administrator can update names, usernames, passwords, email addresses, etc. in the provider's WBC account by clicking on the account settings. The following steps are taken to conduct criminal history background checks. The provider downloads and prints the Michigan Workforce Background Check Consent and Disclosure Form. It is then given to the potential employee for signature. Providers then perform the preliminary criminal background check, also called ICHAT, on the prospective employee by completing the registries identified in their WBC system account. While in the WBC system, providers schedule the potential employees for fingerprinting. The WBC system will generate a completed fingerprint request form, which the provider will give to the prospective employee. Potential employees will then take the form to the fingerprinting site along with their government-issued picture identification. Potential employees must go to a state-contracted fingerprint vendor to be fingerprinted. Once fingerprinted, potential employees will immediately receive a receipt while at the fingerprint site. The provider is to retain this receipt in the individual's employment file. While waiting for background check results, a prospective employee may be offered supervised conditional employment if the prospective employee completed the WBC consent and disclosure form. A prospective employee may be offered unsupervised conditional employment if the prospective employee completed all of the following: the WBC consent and disclosure form, was fingerprinted within 10 business days of the conditional employment, received appropriate ICHAT results, and provided a written statement that he or she has resided in Michigan without interruption for at least the preceding 12 months.
After a prospective employee has been fingerprinted, the Michigan State Police will forward the results to the FBI. Fingerprint results then go to a WBC analyst only if criminal history was identified. A WBC analyst reviews the criminal history and determines employability. The WBC analyst will then notify the provider and the prospective employee. If there is no criminal history, the system will automatically generate an eligibility letter that is sent to the provider via the WBC system and the prospective employee. On this slide in the presentation, you will see an example of an eligibility letter.
Another common question asked is, can I accept an eligibility letter from a different facility or staffing agency? The answer is no. An eligibility letter from a different facility or staffing agency cannot be accepted. Each covered facility must be able to provide an eligibility letter which states that the employee, independent contractor, or person being granted clinical privileges is eligible to work in their facility. The eligibility determination letters must contain the name of the specific facility the person is actually working. Even if a licensee owns several different licensed facilities, the person must obtain a background check under the WBC account of each specific facility they are actually working. The FBI continually updates records as fingerprints are added to the system and sends a follow-up called a wrap back if an applicant, employee, volunteer, or licensee is subsequently fingerprinted for any criminal activity. Our office needs to know where people are working, so we know where to send the wrap back notifications.
WBC analysts notify the provider that a prospective employee does not qualify for employment via an exclusionary notice, which is similar to the eligibility letter. A provider's assigned licensing consultant will receive a copy of the exclusionary notice and will follow up with the provider to confirm that they received the eligibility notice and did not hire and/or that they terminated the employee. On this slide, you will see an example of an employee disqualification notice. Prospective employees who are determined ineligible may request a redetermination of their employment eligibility based upon two things. One, inaccuracy in their criminal history record, or two, if their conviction was expunged, set aside, or removed from the record. Information on how to appeal is sent to the disqualified employee by a WBC analyst. When an AFC employee is arrested for a non-qualifying offense after they have been hired, the MSP will send an electronic notification to the WBC unit who will notify the provider. An arrest charge is not cause for employee termination. However, if the employee is eventually convicted, the provider will be notified and the employee must be terminated. Staffing agencies and/or contractors with direct resident access may create their own WBC account, which allows for the secure sharing of eligibility determinations with providers. Note, staffing agencies/contractors are not required to create a WBC account. If they don't, it is the legal responsibility of the provider to ensure fingerprint-based background checks are done on staffing agency employees and/or contractors with direct resident access in their facilities. See Staffing and Contractor Agency Registration on the miltcpartnership.org homepage for further information on how to obtain a shared eligibility determination from a staffing agency/contractor. Each new background check does not necessarily require new fingerprinting. The WBC system is designed to provide a valid shared eligibility determination when available at no additional cost to the provider. This means that in most cases, a fingerprint result can be used for 12 months following the date of the fingerprinting. For example, an applicant is printed and cleared for an AFC provider on December 12, 2023. If this individual applies to work at a different facility before December 12, 2024, they will not be required to be fingerprinted again. The new provider will perform the preliminary criminal background check, or ICHAT, on this individual by completing the registries identified in their WBC system account, and an eligibility letter will appear. Individuals must be a Michigan resident for the prior 12 months. We recommend you do these things in your WBC account on an ongoing basis. First, check your system messages. Second, make sure your primary administrator account is in use. Third, make your final hiring decision upon receipt of the eligibility determination. And finally, resign employees upon termination of employment. Thank you for watching our video presentation on workforce background checks. Please contact the Workforce Background Program for additional information.